Hello there, this is Mr. Porter, Acting Assistant Head Teacher at Redhill School. I'd like to take this opportunity to share some information regarding the Year 10 exam series, which is starting at the end of June in the summer term at Redhill. Now is a good time to really consider preparing for revision and guiding our pupils and your children through the process. So we've got some sort of hints and tips regarding preparation, regarding revision, and also support through the process. Communication is really key, so we encourage you to sit down and watch this clip with your children, because it will help establish some of the routines and the expectations through the exam series. Organisation is key. We recommend that pupils organise their books and folders by subjects, and therefore they can place their hand on English books, maths books, whatever it might be, which is going to help them ultimately prepare and revise for their exams. Information will be provided through the Redhill website. Topic lists will be published, exam board and specification links, so you can have some of that subject-specific guidance on what content will be covered during the Year 10 exams. And it's always best to allow teachers to advise on revision guides and web-based revision. There is a lot out there in terms of publications and a lot of revision material on the internet, but we think it's always best that the teachers and our subject leaders and our curriculum areas will guide you to relevant material. During PSHE lessons, there will be support provided to help our pupils create revision timetables. As a general rule of thumb, we are recommending approximately an hour a night during the final weeks of May, and then moving towards 1.5 to 2 hours a night during June in the lead up to the exam. Once revision timetables have been sort of created, it's important that children and pupils stick to them, and this will help avoid procrastination and allowing pupils to have clear focus and making sure that they are covering all of their subject areas within the revision process. The Redhill website will have some key information regarding exam timetables, specifications, and the like. I've just taken a couple of screenshots there to show you of where you can find that information, and there is a screenshot there showing you the Year 10 exams, which is highlighted in one of the links. They start on Monday the 27th of June. They finish on Thursday the 7th of July. Friday the 8th of July has been left for any pupils who were absent to complete any outstanding exams on that day. Regarding revision timetables, time will be given over in PSHE for pupils to start considering revision timetables, and they will be guided on how to plan. They can come in all sort of shape sizes. We've got some examples there of completed on Excel. We've got some colourful examples, but it's important that pupils create a timetable and stick to it throughout the exam series. One of the difficulties that many pupils face prior to an exam series is about revision and where to start and what revision strategies to use. I'm now going to talk through 3 sort of cover-all revision strategies, tried and tested methods that have been used sort of over the years that are a good basis to use for pretty much most subject areas. There are some subject areas, perhaps some of the practical subjects, where this might not be so prevalent, but certainly it is a good place to start. So first of all, using high quality notes. Effective note taking can lead to long-term retention. It can improve metacognition of our pupils, and note taking can be done in a series of ways. For example, you could do systematic and chronological note taking, so starting with work perhaps that was completed in Year 9, or the first piece of GCSE work started at Redhill, and then work through units of work very much so in order. It could be that you make notes unit by unit. So you look at perhaps a unit that you are less confident on, start with that, and then work towards some units that you are more confident on, or even so breaking it down one stage further by concepts and looking through the topic lists and the specification, highlighting areas perhaps that the pupils are not so confident with, and targeting those areas first as part of the revision process. Good examples of note-taking could include the Cornell method, which is where keywords are written on a column on the left. More detailed notes are then taken sort of in the center of the page, and then with a summary of some of the key ideas towards the bottom of the page. Um, it could be that dual coding and symbols and diagrams are used in the main body of the note taking, but it's really important that the key words and some of those subject specific words are used as part of the note taking strategy, because more often than not, it is those subject specific keywords and that vocabulary that pupils really need to master. So, using high quality notes, following that concept by concept or unit by unit approach can be highly effective. Lots of our pupils like to use highlighters and colours, which again absolutely has its place, but make sure that there is some kind of system or some kind of theme to the highlighting. So, example of a system on the screen there: pink for titles and headlines and perhaps learning questions, blue for some of that subject specific vocabulary, green for some of the definitions, orange for some examples and application of the term, and perhaps a yellow or another colour for something that's a bit miscellaneous or perhaps doesn't quite fit those other categories. But the potential pitfall of highlighting is sort of highlighting every last little word, perhaps without having a system. So think about how you are going to highlight in a system that you're going to work to perhaps complement note taking. And again, this is another example of the Cornell method, where there's perhaps, rather than subject-specific keywords, maybe just some knowledge recall down the column on the left. Pupils immediately recall everything that they remember from a particular unit or a concept. Then they return to the notes and develop some stronger descriptions and explanations to support that knowledge recall, and then perhaps summarise some of the main points or perhaps ideas that they were less confident with going forward. The second revision strategy I would like to share with you are knowledge organisers, and these have become more and more prevalent in the wider educational landscape and more prevalent at Red Hill School. Ultimately, a knowledge organiser is a student-friendly visual mind map which is aiming to support knowledge retention. A lot of our GCSE subjects are very, very knowledge rich, and therefore they need a huge amount of knowledge retention to support learning. And knowledge organisers help do this in a very, very student friendly way. Knowledge organisers will focus on individual units from specifications, and students can use them to self-regulate and rag rate, so maybe red, amber and green, areas of the specification that they are most confident on, they are least confident on, and certain areas that they're okay on. And what that means is students can then target areas for development, and they can add to knowledge organisers over time. So they can be done from a very blank canvas and then build up over time as pupils' confidence in the knowledge develops. So I've used an example here of a geography knowledge organiser. This is from the physical geography coastal section of the course. It's got some sort of vocabulary that's dotted around the page in bubbles. What I would ask pupils to do with this is they would create their own version, and then for each of the bubbles and the keywords around the bubbles, they would just jot down their initial ideas and their initial thoughts linked to each of the keywords. I would then ask them to go to their exercise books and then to top up their knowledge of those particular keywords and of those bubbles, perhaps add some diagrams. So, for example, there's some key terms there linked with waves, maybe a quick sketch of a constructive wave, a quick sketch of a destructive wave, with a bit of that subject-specific vocabulary to support that. And then that is a way that they can build up their knowledge over time, covering all aspects of the unit. It might be that if a pupil is particularly confident with the coastal section of the course, they might look for areas within that unit that they're less confident with and highlight that, and just then focus in on those particular areas, and therefore highlighting it and making some of that less confident knowledge more prevalent, and helping them build on their knowledge over time. They don't just have to be completed with pen and paper. There are lots of tools and lots of PC and tablet related presentation apps that pupils can actually complete knowledge organisers on. So it doesn't have to be pen and paper. So for those who are more ICT creative, it might be that they would like to explore those ideas. Regarding Google Classroom, lots of our departments now in our curriculum areas are developing their Google Classroom to allow pupils to have access to some of these resources, some of these templates and some of this material. There is an example here of how I would have used extended learning through Google Classroom, set a knowledge organizer that pupils then could click on. They would then have some instructions on how to complete the knowledge organizer, so what they would need to do, making sure that they include key geographical vocabulary, diagrams and dual code, and add some of those case study example details to layer the knowledge onto their organizer, and then give them a blank canvas of a knowledge organizer in which they could go away, use their exercise books, and add some of that subject specific knowledge on. This is something that we are encouraging at Red Hill School, and something that is being used more and more across departments. The final revision method I'd like to share with you is very much a tried and tested method of flashcards. Flashcards can be bought as separate cards. They could be just alternatively bits of A4 paper folded into. Ultimately, it is a look, write, cover approach to revision. It might be that the material is used to write some initial notes onto a flashcard, and then pupils simply flip it over and do a bit of a memory test and see if they can rote learn some of that key vocabulary, some of those key ideas. It could be that perhaps if there's anything that requires an image or a diagram, so for example, maybe some cell work in biology, a cell might be drawn on the back of one of the flashcards, and then some of the supporting vocabulary and content can be included on the back. It might be that you want more of a key term vocabulary checklist, so maybe some key terms on the front, definitions on the back, and treat it as a bit of a matching exercise. Or they could be used for some series of exam questions with some perhaps practice answers or some model answers on the back. So pupils are having attempting to practice and answer questions, but whilst also being able to use their books to write perhaps more perfect and more refined answers. So there's plenty of ways that flashcards can be used, but ultimately they follow that same sort of theme: look, write, cover, and that will help develop our pupils' knowledge and understanding over time. Just provided some examples there of how flashcards can be dual coded, how diagrams and images can be used, and again, perhaps even using highlighters to follow a particular theme or a system. Now, there are plenty of other revision strategies that might be used. Post-it notes, as mentioned earlier, there's lots of apps and YouTube and TikToks where there's huge amounts of little subject blasts, but the internet is a big place and there is a huge amount of information on there. I would always recommend speaking to teachers and waiting to receive guidance on any appropriate links. I'm not sure what those things are called in the bottom right hand corner. I know that they used to be back in the day. But again, another sort of creative method into perhaps sort of flashcards, that kind of look, cover, repeat, and testing of knowledge, and also some diagrammatic mind maps as well, supporting on the knowledge organisers. That could be one other example of a revision strategy that is used. I've mentioned Google Classroom a couple of times in this presentation. Google Classroom is the vehicle and the platform that we are using both to set our extended learning and share revision material and guidance. Just wanted to talk you through some sort of key ideas with that, and also some of the language that's used on Google Classroom and some of the functions on there. For all of their subjects, pupils will be provided with revision material and guidance through Google Classroom. So that could be examples of some knowledge organisers, or perhaps some revision guides or guided revision notes, or it could be that subject teachers are setting revision-based tasks as assignments. As a general rule of thumb, the revision guidance and the revision notes on Google Classroom will be posted as material, and that simply means that pupils can click on the link and they will have access to templates, to notes, whatever it is, under a material function. However, there's some revision tasks that will be set as extended learning, will be posted as an assignment. And this means that something needs to be completed and handed in to the member of staff. It could be that the assignment's been set electronically and therefore it needs to be sent back through Google Classroom, or it could be that the instructions have been posted on Google Classroom and actually the physical task has to be handed into the teacher in class. All extended learning set between now and the exam period will be revision focused. So there might be some extended learning, some homework set via an assignment where we are expecting pupils to complete that task and hand it into the member of staff. But you will often find on Google Classroom now that there will be material posted, which is just guidance and supporting material for their upcoming exam. A couple of examples of what this looks like on Google Classroom to familiarise you with the functions. You can see there it says Mr. Porter posted a new assignment, paper 1, 2 and 3 skills practice. So that was something that I've set, which will have a due date, which I expect pupils to complete. So that is something that pupils would have needed to have completed. You can see underneath, however, it says posted new material, and quite simply what that is, some revision notes for the exam on the Monday, the 23rd of May. Now that's taken from the current year 11 class that I teach. So you can see there clearly it's got the date of the exam, and that will have some revision notes and some revision information, revision material on it because it's been posted as material. Whereas the link above, I've posted that as a task, as some extended learning that I wish pupils to complete. We appreciate as educators that this is a particularly challenging time and can be a particularly challenging time for our Year 10 pupils, and we want to make sure that we give them the best opportunity possible to do as well as they can. And we are aware with that we have to manage pupils through the process. So we've got some top tips for the revision process building into the exam series at the end of June. Unfortunately for pupils, they do have to make a start at some point, and this idea that behaviour breeds behaviour and success breeds success, it needs a start point, and we think now a month prior to the Year 10 exams is a good place to start. It's important that through any sort of revision period that short breaks are built in. Some recommended revision time of approximately an hour during May, then leading up to an hour and a half to 2 hours during June, we believe is ample time for our pupils to prepare fully for their exams. But within that, it's important that we build in short breaks, and some suggested times are given there. Like anything regarding mental and physical health, frequent short exercises can make a difference, whether it's just walking the dog, having a quick stretch, having a quick run around over the park, doing a few keep-ups in the back garden, whatever it might be. It's really important that we keep our bodies and our minds healthy through this process. Likewise, making sure that we're drinking plenty of water and getting lots of fresh air and trying to stay cool through the summer period. And also thinking about diets. Diets have a huge part in people's behaviour, and therefore it's important that we mention this and support our pupils through eating healthily. Some suggested brain foods: berries, nuts, grains, green veg, dark chocolate are all proven to be good for the brain. Lots of sugar can be potentially sort of bad during this process, and try and eat lots of healthy snacks sort of throughout. It's important that pupils manage to take a day off, especially if perhaps they're becoming anxious or nervous, that they have a break from the process, and we use this time productively. Obviously, we've got the May half term coming up, so it might be that perhaps pupils will use that time to have some downtime whilst also sort of perhaps getting organised and starting with their revision. It's important that pupils build in some relaxation time and downtime between revising and bedtime. So trying to limit sort of the screen time, making sure that our pupils have got that nice break before they sort of stop working and then start to go to sleep, and that will help them with a better night's sleep and help them feel refreshed for the next day. Similarly to the breaks with the short exercises and the day off to do something different. If pupils and children are starting to feel frustrated and angry and overwhelmed, it's important that we stop and take a break and communicate and we talk through some of those feelings. It's important maybe to make a note of the problem, ask a teacher, ask a friend, talk. It's really important that we do that through this process. It's also key that we focus on, the success that we've made and the steps that we have made, and not the things that we haven't. GCSEs are big. The content that is needed, it can be quite overwhelming, and sometimes we have to stop and reflect at how far we've come and how much we've secured in a very short period of time. So it's important to focus on what has been done rather than what hasn't, to help manage our pupils through the process and our children through the process. Still building in time for favourite TV programme, Netflix programme, going out with friends, whatever it might be. Organisation plays a huge part in this. I mentioned earlier in the presentation about organising books and folders, etc., but making sure that we're in routine, that before every session we're organised, and that we're closing each revision session down by being organised, filing away notes, avoiding clutter, and making sure that we've got a high quality working environment and work area that means that you can start the next session nice and positively. And linking back to some of those revision strategies, don't leave the difficult bits until the end. It's really important that you're disciplined, with subjects and concepts that perhaps you struggle with, and our pupils and children struggle with, and they tackle those first. And that will help perhaps break down some of those barriers and help some of those steps to success along the way. Final slide I'd like to share with you is all about support. I've used the term support countless times in this presentation, and at Red Hill School, we are here to support your children through this process. If there is anything that you require in terms of additional support or would like further information, if your first port of call can be Mr. Vaughan, I've left the email address on the slide for you to contact, or alternatively there is Miss Probert, who is our full-time pastoral support for Year 10. If you reach out to either of those, they'll be able to offer more guidance, and it perhaps helps remove some of the barriers to learning that your children might have. For anything more subject specific, you can refer to the website for information on our subject leaders who can help you and guide you. Or alternatively, you could email info@redhill.dudley.sch.uk, and our reception team will ensure that your query goes to the appropriate person. Thank you for taking the time to watch this presentation, and please don't hesitate to contact the school if you require any further information.